have the bullets.
It is. So often we see this, especially from these fantastic drone shots. We see so far, we don't often see a crew opening up this much of a lead this early on. Masses of water between the very, very dominant University of London crew and their opposition, the University of Surrey. As they come past our position now, we see that distinctive emblem on the canvas of the UL crew, all looking very composed, very relaxed, focused on the task in hand. Something we see from a lot of the UL crews who have the benefit of being coached from some quite fantastic coaches with the program they have going on down there. And of course, there's nothing against the fantastic coaching that we see at the University of Surrey. There's allowed a crew to compete against a crew as strong as number 120 from the University of London.
And of course the University of London has the advantage of rowing on the tidal stretch of the Thames with miles and miles of rowable river, which can get rough at times. You can occasionally get sort of floating sleepers coming down and hazards such as that.
Certainly keep things interesting down on the tideway. I believe these crews from the University of London were actually right down in the centre of London this week training. Certainly some of their crews were. They were pictured outside the House of Parliament, really making full use of the stretch on the tideway that we see many crews making use of on that Putney stretch nowadays, which, as we see in many crews, Thames, University of London, all different crews from that part of the world, really coming back with a force in rowing.
Unfortunately, the Thames in that part of the world is much cleaner than it was 20 or 30 years ago. Still big efforts, of course, to clear up the amount of plastic that's around there, as we often see on the media nowadays, and great efforts are being done to scoop it up from the river and from the margins. Being tidal part of the Thames, of course, a lot of it will just get beached as the river drops.
We found all sorts of things on the tideway. We found an unexploded World War II bomb not too many years ago. And this effort to clean up not only London but also the sport in general is something we see reflected at all different regattas. We had a plastic-free National Schools Regatta where all non-reusable plastic bottles were banned in an attempt to cut down on the waste that we see at these events. As we go back up to the start line, we see Oxford University Lightweight Women's Rowing Club against Oxford University Lightweight Women's Rowing Club. It's a double Oxford bill we have going on up there, demonstrating again the strength that we see in the lightweight women's squad at Oxford, training alongside their counterparts for the boat race. Many of these women also rowing in the lightweight boat races, which take place on this stretch of river earlier in the year.
And this is the championship lightweight singles that we're seeing with Holland and Thomas racing. It would appear that the Oxford University Lightweight Rowing Club sculler Thomas has about a length lead over her compatriot from the club.
It's always interesting to see two scholars from the same club go head to head. They'll often have trained together, possibly in the same boat, especially through the longer winter months of the season. And to see them go head to head like this, it really is a battle of the minds. They both know they've got a fantastic program behind them, and it just comes down to who has that extra power in the legs, who has that extra strength in the mind to push when it really needs to be pushed. And so far, we do see Thomas on the Buckinghamshire station being dominant in these early stages of the Championship Lightweight Women's Single Sculls.
This is an event that's sponsored by the Colgan Foundation. Sean and Bibi Colgan are great sponsors of the sport. Sean was a US junior lightweight and eventually heavyweight rower, got into the 1980 Olympic 8, which unfortunately didn't, of course, get to compete in Moscow because of the boycott, which frustrated him somewhat.
as you'd expect it would. But it's great to see such support for the sport from all different areas of the world. If you look down your list on the Regatta website, you can see who's sponsoring which event here at Henley Women's Regatta, which is of course run entirely by volunteers, just showing the love that everyone in this country has for the sport of rowing. Again, if we look back on the course now, we see the lead that Thomas had earlier in the race has been reeled in slightly by her opponent from Oxford University Lightweight Rowing Club, and this could be a tight one, come down to the wire.
I think so, yes. Yes, Holland is looking very composed, just occasionally peeking out to the left to see how she's doing, and certainly closed the gap significantly.
This reminds me of the final of the Diamond Jubilee Challenge Sculls at Henley Regatta last year, where Mahe Drysdale, who I believe was even on the same station as the scull we see coming through now, against her opponent, came through right from behind to win for his 6th time at Henley Regatta in the Diamond Sculls. And it looks to me like this could be a repeat in this boat class here. Thomas has certainly been overtaken by her local opponent.
Yes.
Both looking quite calm and composed as we come into the final few metres. Passing the boat stands there, we can see it's fantastic at this point of the race because you get all the support from the crowds on the bank. And I think what the really fantastic thing about Henley Women's Regatta is whether or not you're from that crew, you always get a big cheer from the bank, and it really adds to what is a really fantastic atmosphere around Henley this time of year.
This race shows the necessity to spread your effort over the whole course. Holland not being phased too much by her compatriot leading her off the start, is now just sweeping through and gradually moving away.
It's fantastic to see such rivalry between two scullers of such class, but it does seem as if the underdog from the start of this race has come through to triumph, something we've seen several times this afternoon, especially with the American crews coming through later on to dominate from a back foot in the early stages of the race, which just demonstrates how important it is not to focus all your efforts on those first few strokes of this race.
The most important thing is not to lead by the end of the island, but to cross the line first.
As Tom said earlier, you can strategize as much as you like, but the ultimate aim is to cross that line first, especially in such a brutal race as we have here. So as we go back up to the start line, we can see another contest of the Championship Lightweight Women's Single Sculls between Nottingham County Rowing Association and Durham University, sitting on the Buckinghamshire station. We saw Durham race earlier in the 4 not too long ago, and it appears that the strength that this programme has picked up is not only in the larger boats but also in the single sculls. Nice high rating coming off Temple Island. It was quite closely matched to me at this point in the race.
Looks like a good race, yes.
It definitely does. There we are, fantastic
Very
shot
tight,
going
yeah.
past. Lovely to see these shots that we get down here at Henley Women's Regatta. The drone shots and those along the side of the river just allow us to see all the different perspectives that even those in the crew and the coaches don't normally get to see. You can really analyse the crew's technique, their strategy, and of course from the drone shots, their all-important place in the rankings.
It looks as though Thompson from Nottingham County Rowing Association has just established a lead of about a length at the quarter mile.
Looks to me like quite a fast race coming down the track now. Durham University, of course, in that quite distinctive. It's a green boat coming down, quite distinctive to the eye.
Yes, it's almost, yeah.
Fantastic colour.
Palatinate purple.
It definitely does. There's definitely an interesting clash between the boat and the blades there, but makes my job sitting here far easier to tell the crews apart. And even at this point in the race, for about a third of the way through, there's no clear water between the crews. It's pretty much about half a length lead to the sculler from Nottingham County Rowing Association, and she aims just to open up a lead as we extend down into the barrier.
And in terms of boat shape, really interesting those two. There's a Felipe on this side and a Stamfley on the far side. The radical Stamfley with its pencil-thin bows and all the bulk of the boat in the stern, whereas the Felipe is far more uniform throughout.
Felipe, often a boat that we see in the singles and the smaller boats a lot more. Felipe recently announced and unveiled their new Coxless 4 and their sweep rigger design, that sweeps on the back of the rower, used by the Dutch 4 at the latest World Cup, setting a new world record, I believe. So there's obviously some fantastic advancements being made in the world of rowing technology, which we'll see drip down to the lower echelons of the rowing society quite soon, I imagine.
Well, this does look like a good race. There's still an overlap, and I think Devereux has closed up somewhat on Thompson.
It's almost bell for bell. Even down here, a good 500 metres away from the regatta enclosure, we can hear the cheers from the parties of both scullers, edging them on just to try and beat their opposition. Looks like Durham may have come back slightly, but I'm not going to call it, seeing as I've already fallen to the commentator's curse earlier this afternoon.
Well, this is the part of the course where the Buckinghamshire station is closer to the edge of the river than the Berkshire station. If we get a drone shot, we'll be able to see that. Yes, perfect timing. So big gap over to Berkshire, so the Berkshire sculler is virtually in the centre of the river, whereas the Buckinghamshire sculler is much closer to the bank. So if there is any stream difference, and I don't think there's a great deal today.
No, but
if there is, then it becomes noticeable.
It does look like there might have been at play, because we had the Nottingham County sculler leading from the start when she had the stream advantage, and Durham coming back with her stream advantage later on.
Yes.
Nice close up of the sculler from Durham there, looking tired, but not letting that affect her technique. Looking incredibly strong, blade work still nice and smooth, even after rowing what has been a very, very tight race so far.
Certainly well trained in the Durham system, working well for them.
Definitely, and another institute where academic excellence can sit side by side with athletic excellence. So as we head back up to the start at Temple Island, we have race number 59, which is contested between the sculler from Oxford University Lightweight Women's Rowing Club and Peterborough City Rowing Club. Another sculler here from Oxford University Lightweight Club, just demonstrating how strong they are, especially recently. I'm not sure of the result from the lightweight boat race this year, but year on year it produces some fantastic results and often really close. And evidently the scullers, the sweep rowers there, are as comfortable with 2 oars as they are with 1 oar. You can just see there swinging round. Both crews looking pretty level.
Yeah, another good race coming up here. Slight advantage to Plum on the Buckinghamshire station, the Peterborough sculler.
And just we can see at the top of our screens in a minute the end of the last race, race number 58. We see the Durham University sculler there, still going almost hell for leather just to open that last bit of water up between her and her competitor. Absolutely fantastic. Fantastic to see.
Now the drone shot on the left side of the screen, we can see that there is really not a great deal of distance between these 2 scullers. Watts from Oxford University Lightweight and Plum from Peterborough.
I think this is one of those sort of really big things about lightweight rowing, is that because of that weight limitation, it often comes down to technique, and that produces some really, really close and exciting racing. The conversation around lightweight rowing has really heated up in the last few years. Tokyo 2020, the next Olympics, there will only be 2 seats for each country to present their best lightweight female rowers, and even if these rowers that we see today won't be competing for those seats, it seems that the controversy surrounding those conversations certainly spurred a new breed of lightweight scullers. Again, very level as we come past the commentary box there, just going through the barrier, followed by another one of our fantastic umpires launches here at Henley Women's Regatta.
A lot of the umpires' launches have been gradually replaced with fiberglass hulls. The superstructure still looks the same, wonderful timber structures. A mould was taken off one of the original boats, which were obviously cross-ply timber of traditional construction, but gradually the problem with the cross-ply is if water gets in there, they rot, and so the Regatta has gradually had to replace them. And they wanted the reliability of new engines as well.
Of course. It's just another facet to the Henley events that sees so much history intertwined with what's very fitting rowing scene. If you look down the course, especially in a couple of weeks' time when we have Henley Regatta, you'll see that we don't mark the course with in metres or kilometres as you'd see on the international stage. Instead, we mark it in miles and with barriers and foley marks, which to an untrained eye can be quite deceptive and confusing. Just following the tail end of this race, number 59 now, towards the end. A very tight race contested between these two scullers. Very exciting race, as we said earlier, often between the lightweight crews. Just to give you a quick update on the last few races and their results. So race number 56 between the University of London and the University of Surrey was won by the University of London. Race number 57, the first of our championship lightweight sculls, was won by Oxford University Lightweight Women's Boat Club over her opposition from the same boat club. And the last race that we saw going down, number 58, was won by Durham University over Nottingham County Rowing Association. That incredibly tight race that we saw going bow ball for bow ball down the majority of the race.
And still, the two scullers from Oxford University Lightweight Rowing Club, Watts and Peterborough Plum, neck and neck, having a great race, neither giving an inch.
It really is fantastic to see. As you can see, both scullers, even under this pressure, remaining really calm and composed. It makes a great spectator sport. Most people don't think of rowing as a sport to watch, but with races like this, who wouldn't want to spend their afternoon in the nice sunny, well, hopefully sunny, Oxfordshire countryside, watching some absolutely fantastic races. Speaking of fantastic races, as we head up back to the start for race number 60 of the afternoon between the University of Tulsa, USA, and the Royal Students Boat Club from the Netherlands. A completely international race, this one here. And from what I can see, ideally another tight race, but I think we've got a clear winner off the start already. Yeah, just coming past our commentary position now. Looks like the Royal Students Boat Club from the Netherlands has stretched out to an early lead using a boat borrowed from local club Leander, as is so often the case with these international crews.
Must be. So the crew from the Netherlands, Njord, appear to have a lead of 2 lengths over the University of Tulsa. Steering doesn't seem to have been too significant. Tulsa did veer towards the centre of the course after the end of the island, but the crew from the Netherlands is rather more dominant at the moment.
You can see there from that fantastic drone shot just how much water the Netherlands crew has opened up between themselves and their American opposition. It's fantastic to see that a race, even on the first day, Henley Regatta, is contested between two crews based entirely outside the UK. It just shows how important this race has become for women the world over. You can see
it's the draw of wanting to row on this wonderful course. 2 months ago at Easter, this was an empty river, and the pile drivers came in and have laid this course very rapidly, and it does make everything an awful lot safer. Far fewer risks of head-on collisions than at other times of the year.
Even if it means sacrificing a few blades every now and then
Yes.
for the crews rowing down, as we see perhaps a little too often on this stretch of the Henley course. There we are, a lovely water level shot of the crew from the Netherlands there, number 121. Looking very calm, very relaxed, very composed as they come into the closing stages of the race.
Yes, as I say.
So 61 on the course, University of Bristol on the Berkshire station leads on the Buckinghamshire station. A bit of a steering discrepancy coming out of the blocks, but it's the University of Bristol who've come out and fared the better of the two, and they have a couple of lengths lead on Leeds University at the moment. Steering seems to be the narrative of the day so far. Wayward steering into the middle of the course, causing quite a lot of crews concern and actually adapting and changing the dynamic of the race. You can see top right hand side of your picture, Tulsa and Nord making their way into the latter stages of their contest of the academic aspirational Cox's Fours, and it looks, unless things have changed dramatically in the past few seconds, that Nord from Holland are going to take the win in that one.
Going through the quarter mile signal, Bristol have established a lead of about 2 lengths over Leeds University. And both crews are now steering a pretty good course. Long.
So Bristol coming up towards the barrier with, I think I would describe that as a comfortable margin at the moment, ahead of their opponents from Leeds.
There's a significant strength in that Bristol crew, looking very cohesive and competent. Long, solid strokes, blades well covered, making the most of the effort that they're applying with the leg drive. So this part of the course where theoretically the Leeds University crew should have a slight advantage as the course heads a little bit more towards the bank on the Buckinghamshire station, but they may close a little at this point. Whether they can catch them up or not is a different story.
Great to see Bristol competing in the higher echelons of university rowing. They had a good year at the Bucks Regatta. Great results in the women's 8 category. I imagine the 4 girls you see on your screen now will have had something to do with that, and just outclassing their opponents from Leeds University. In the race preceding this, race 60, it was a win for Nord over the University of Tulsa, United States of America. So a long trip home for those girls, having made the flight across the pond. 61 in progress, Bristol all but decisive in this one ahead of Leeds. So we've got 62, which is the next race on the state boat, and that is a contest again in the academic aspirational Cox's Fours between Aberdeen University Robert Gordon composite up against Imperial College London.
It's good to see these crews rowing so technically well and making the most of the effort that's being applied. Very well coached.
It's a reoccurring theme, isn't it, throughout the day? The quality of rowing in the UK has just gone from strength to strength over the last few years. And in evidence again, as race number 62 gets underway, the Scottish composite on the Berkshire station up against Imperial in their yellow boat, blue, silver and black blades on the Buckinghamshire station. Again, steering leaves a lot to be desired, but Imperial with what looks like a bit of a burst off the blocks to established control, but again they are, I would say, flirting with the booms at this stage, and they won't want to make things any more intimate because that could be catastrophic for their race plan. But as it stands, they have 3/4 of a length ahead of the Scots from Aberdeen and Robert Gordon universities respectively.
Yes, another Scottish crew enjoying the Henley course. It is a pleasure just to row on this course. Crews come from all over the world, as we know, just for the joy of it. I was talking to an elderly couple who were walking down the bank the other day, asking about details of the course because their son had rowed here some years ago, and they just couldn't believe the course had been laid at that point. They couldn't believe how accurately it had been laid. If you go down to the start and you can look along the line of the course and the way the piles have been driven in, so they're all the same height. Didn't used to be that way, but they are now, and dead straight. It is claimed that the posts go into the same hole every year. I'm not quite sure if they manage that, but it certainly can't be far off. Now we have Imperial passing the commentary point with about a length lead over the composite crew from Aberdeen University and Robert Gordon. Two good crews fighting it out here.
Yeah, Imperial in control at the moment. No surprise to those who do follow the UK rowing circuit to see Imperial in a position of comfort. They are one of the foremost university rowing programs in the country, and showing that again here. They always compete well on a national level, both women's and men's, and well coached as well. Nice upright stroke style, catching the boat out front, propelling it forward, using the blade as a lever.
And of course the boathouse is adjacent to the Thames Rowing Club boathouse, and they have that wonderful stretch of the Thames once again to race on. Imperial College is part of the University of London, and occasionally the athletes do go to Chiswick.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I'll see you in an hour. Paul, I'll see you over the weekend.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Henley Regatta, race 63 underway now between Oxford Brookes University on the Berkshire station against York University on the Buckinghamshire station. Just see the top right hand there, the end of the last race between Imperial College London and the composite between Aberdeen University and Robert Gordon University. Great drone shot there, just showed Brookes extending their lead out of the start as they go through the barrier. Fantastic collegiate rowing programme they've got going there, arguably the best in the UK, probably also the best in Europe, demonstrating that they're stretching out over their opponents from York University. York, historically not one of the strongest clubs in the country, but demonstrating real strength here to be able to keep up with the crew with as much history as Oxford Brookes University. Just as we go past there, you can see from this fantastic drone shot, and there we are back down on the water there, the style that these girls have in the way they row. I had the privilege at Henley Regatta last year of seeing some of the Oxford women's crews just warm down after their races, and the discipline that they present both on and off the water is something to be rivaled by any crew, and clearly it's translating into boat speed as we see them open up a really substantial lead against their opposition. Back up at the start line with race number 64 on the bottom left of your screen. We go back to the aspirational lightweight single sculls between another of the Oxford University Lightweight Women's Club scullers against the Cambridge crew, Canterbury Rowing Club, Miss Oakley there. The Canterbury sculler training on the twisty, turny River Cam. Not the easiest river to train on, often held up by college eights and any other mishaps going on along the river. And we see quite an interesting match unfolding here as they pass the camera in these opening stages of the aspirational lightweights. So back here with race number 64 in the aspirational lightweight single sculls between the scullers from Oxford University Lightweight Rowing Club and Canterbury Rowing Club. Both very seasoned scullers here. Seeing them unfold in a fantastic race so far. Looking fantastic as they progress.